Cal Theriault has given up on church.
I probably haven't attended church in a good 2 years.
Although he grew up in the church, he became disillusioned when his parents were denied a position because they divorced and remarried.
They went and they told my parents that they had been nominated and that they got rejected for this reason. I was like, was there really any necessity to do that? Yeah. I mean, that was nothing but just to hurt somebody.
That was the first step in what eventually led him to call it quits.
I didn't find any fellowship for myself there.
Theriault isn't an anomaly. He belongs to a group pastor and author Dave Sawler calls the goodbye generation.
The goodbye generation refers to youth and young adults, and now adults, who either grew up in the church or attended for a time, who have distanced themselves from that.
Though the numbers vary, the research is clear. With each generation, church attendance is in decline. Bronson and Danielle Carabin are part of that generation too, but only in age. They're still in church, and it's because of one thing: community.
I'd say just like the friends that are there, and also the experiences of like just getting tight with God.
I love the people who go to my church. I love that you get to see old people and young people, and I love everyone usually goes out to eat afterwards.
For the goodbye generation, the need to feel like part of a family, Sawler says, trumps just about everything else.
All these churches are trying to fix it. You know, we're going to get a different music pastor, we're going to get more drums or more guitars, and they're totally missing the point, because they actually don't care what happens for that 1 hour. They may care some, but what does it mean for the rest of the week?
People want to like feel loved and accepted. We focus so much on the Sunday, but it's like the Sunday morning is like 1% to like being a Christian.
If you look at Jesus' life, it was the most imperfect people who were really drawn to him. It was, you know, the sinners and the prostitutes and those people. And it wasn't because Jesus didn't have his teachings very clear, but it was that they experienced acceptance and love and forgiveness.
According to Sawler, the church exodus typically begins at 18.
Well, there's a lot of parents making their kids go till that age.
Bronson and Carabin agree.
For some of my friends, it was right when they're kind of leaving high school, like they're just finishing off, and they just got into like the party scene, I guess. I think a lot of it too was they just, like they stopped fitting in, or like the Sunday service or church wasn't doing it for them.
I would say a lot of my friends left church around the university transition. Yeah. And I think the ones that happened too easily is when they moved away and they lost their Christian community. They didn't have a support network or friends that were calling them up.
The transition to post-secondary education is a critical time, Sawler says.
And if you grew up thinking, well, this is the only way, suddenly you're being in an environment where you're just one of a whole bunch of many ways. And a lot of people can't survive the questioning of their faith.
He recommends churches assign someone, like a youth pastor, to stay digitally connected.
They should actually be allowed to have several hours a week where their main job is to make sure that those people are still connected. And we are living in a day, this is easier than ever, between Facebook and MSN and telephone and everything else, that there's no reason that we cannot stay connected.
But for those who stay, Sawler says the church is also losing young people during the transition from youth group to adult church.
I think some kids ministry, youth ministry, again, is the most, sometimes the most healthy part of the church. You have discipleship, extreme accountability, extreme community. And then they hit 25, and then we go tell them, go do everything that we just told you not to do. And just sit there.
Why not give like this person over here a responsibility, and like even give like more young people like jobs, or why not include them in the worship band, or you know, let them be a Sunday school teacher or things like that.
Among the goodbye generation, basic Bible literacy is another problem. Take the Old Testament, for example. Many young people, Sawler says, don't know how to respond when questioned about why a good God would instruct his followers to wipe out entire populations.
Top 10 things that come up when your young person types in the Bible on YouTube, or it could be Google. And 7 out of 10, usually 6 to 8, will be something negative about the Bible. Every one of them uses scriptures out of the Old Testament as reasons why they should not be a Christian. And that's something new.
No, I think it's almost awkward sometimes to go to people and like ask them stuff from the Old Testament. I'm like about to do it and then you get nervous because I'm like, no, they're gonna think it's like dumb or like they won't really get it.
The solution? Encourage young people to do the exact opposite.
And I think we actually need to talk to our kids and let them know there are some difficult things that are in the Bible. And don't try to hide it, because everything is out in the open today. There's actually some great ministries and websites dedicated just to apologetics and helping parents and leaders just deal with some of those questions, because they are hard questions. And there's not always easy answers.
I've been pretty fortunate to be able to have church leaders or an environment that I can ask those questions and actually get really satisfying answers.
Sawler describes the traditional way of doing church as a spectator sport, and it's a philosophy that doesn't fly with a get-up-and-go generation.
We've created an atmosphere where we are happy if people are just there, not if they're active. This is a generation that wants to do. They're never going to be content with just hearing.
And the easiest way to let them do is to get them involved in all areas of the church.
They want to go do something for the poor, even mission trips. I'll use that as an example. Like if you have a prayer ministry, why is it all just adults in your church? How come you don't bring in some of the youth?
But the news isn't all bad. While some are saying goodbye to the church, others are saying hello, though not in conventional ways. Though she still attends a traditional church, 2 years ago, Danielle, Carabin, and her husband opened their home to small groups of 20-somethings.
What we do isn't very profound. The messages aren't great. The worship's not always the best. Sometimes we go too long. It's not very planned or organized, but I think people are coming back because they sense a community where they're accepted. They can be honest. If they show up upset or crying, it's okay. There's really no pressure.
And while he's unsure if he'll go back, Cal Theriault admits there are some things he does miss about church.
I miss that feeling I used to get, after having a prayer, after singing worship, the feeling like a weight's being lifted off my shoulders.
Thanks to young people like Theriault, Sawler says some churches will have to face the fact they may not be around much longer. But that may not necessarily be a bad thing.
Even though a lot of churches may close, the church itself is doing incredibly well. And I actually believe God is up to something, that he's taking away a lot of the things that have held the church back. We have so much money tied up in buildings in our country. A lot of denominations can't even do ministry anymore because all their money is in buildings. Well, you know what? Maybe the best thing that could ever happen is we lost them all. And you know what? We had to go out.
And though it's a tough pill to swallow, he says he's hopeful, because numbers, no matter how grim, don't always tell the whole story.
I actually believe God is stirring up in this generation exactly what he needs in this country to win this generation. So yeah, we have a lot of people that maybe they're leaving the organized church, or just maybe just they don't know what's going on or how they fit in that. But I believe God's going to use a lot of those people to do ministry right where they are, in how they're called, and maybe it's going to look really different, but that's okay.
To hear the rest of my conversation with the panel, visit 100huntley.com. In Antigonish, Nova Scotia, Bridget Antwi, 100 Huntley Street.